Okay, now we're going to start looking at the Allen-Bradley Type 700 Type P, whereas before in the last video we looked at the Type N. Now, they are similar in how they operate, but the layout and the components are arranged and they're kind of built a little different. So we're going to run through this one in the same manner that we ran through the last one, and whereas we're going to take it apart and we're going to identify the parts and go on. Now, the Type P is what they call finger safe, where you can't actually get your fingers into one of the open components, where the Type N just had open components on it. So this one's an ISC rated. Okay, so just like the last one, we're going to start at the same spot. We're going to start with the coil. Now, with the Type N, I turned it up to the top to where you could see a red ledger up on the top. Well, as you see on the Type P, that does not exist. It's not there anymore. What they've done is they've actually printed it in the front. So now you can see that this 115, 120 at 60 hertz, 110 at 50 hertz is actually printed on the front in between the two screws that make up the coil. So now, instead of having to look at the top and finding out what your ratings are, you can just look at the front of it and see that your rating is 115 to 120 volts at 60 hertz. All right. So this time again, we're going to bring in our meter. All right. This time I'm going to bring it in where it's not energized or not working right now. I'm going to take it to my ohmic value setting. So now I'm on ohms. It comes up, it's ready to operate. It's showing that I have a mega ohm reading right now. It's out of its limits at the present moment. And now I'm going to take and hit the select button once. That's going to bring up my audible alarm. All right. So now I'm going to take my two probes and I'm going to check my continuity. Again, I'm hitting the plates below the screw heads and not the screws themselves. This coil is going to read 77 ohms. If you notice, the last one was like 63. This one winds up being 77, so it is a tangible amount of resistance, but it's still not enough to let it show continuity, but it is there. Okay. All right. Now, on the Type P, it's a little bit easier to determine what type of contact you're dealing with, but they're a little harder to get to. All right. So let's move this out of the way for now because I want to be able to look inside. Now, once you got it at this angle, you can actually see through this clear plastic window that there is a contact printed right there. Okay, it is also color coordinated. Anytime a contact is green, that's going to signify that that contact is open. This one's green, this one's green, this one's green. So all four of these right now are open. All right, so we're going to change one of those around here in just a second. Okay, now one of the things that I do not like about this, it's hard to get a meter inside here to test whether or not this is an open or a closed, but we're going to go ahead and attempt it anyways. All right, if you'll notice here on the top, this is where the screwdriver will go to get down into the screw head. Okay, and it's encased in clear plastic, and then the wires will go down here and here. All right, so to check this for continuity, first off, I'm going to back this screw head out because I'm going to actually put the screwdriver. I'm going to actually put the leads in there and try to tighten them down like I would a wire. That way I don't have to use an extra hand to make sure they're operating properly. All right. All right, so now that I've got those in place, I'm going to bring the meter back over. You can see that it is an open right now. So I'm going to do just like I did on the last 700, the Type N. I'm going to depress this red button, and it goes to a closed, verifying that this indeed is a normally open. So now comes the part to where I don't need just all normally opens. I need at least one, maybe two normally closed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to make me my normally closed. All right, so I'm going to remove this. We're going to take the meter out of the frame. All right, and now we're going to disassemble the Type P. All right, to start off with, the Type P is very easy to take apart. It works on the same principle as the Type N. The difference is this clear plate's a little bit easier to break. Okay, so be very careful when you back this thing out. You have 2 screws at the top and the bottom that you need to remove. Slide them out until they come all the way out and they're loose, preferably where you can actually back them out with your fingers. Usually whenever you can feel that you can back them out with your fingers, they're out far enough. All right, you're gonna lift this up, set it off to the side. Okay, now here's the difference on this one. This now has a retaining clip that you're gonna have to remove. All right, so this must come out. Before you can get to the contacts. And again, this is one of those ones, keep going until it's where you can remove it with your finger. Okay. All right, so there we go. We've got that retaining clip out. Now we can see the contacts in their housings. All right. The way it changes from the N to the P is now these are not held in by screws any longer. They're actually just set inside there. So you don't have to back the screws all the way out to change them from normally open to normally closed. All you have to do is reach in and pull them out. Okay, so now here's the contact that is removed. Now, if you'll notice on the tops and the bottoms, you've got a normally open, normally open. Well, if you flip it around 180 degrees, now we've gone to a different color. Now we're showing that we're blue. Okay, the difference is I don't have any screw heads on this one. Okay, so instead of having to remove the screws all the way out to be able to flip it, now all you have to do is back the screws out a little bit and make them loose. And you can see right here, now that screw is loose, and now I can rotate that screw all the way around to the opposite side. So now I have a screw head on a normally closed and I have a screw head on a normally open. But make sure that you get both of them around to where they are on the normally closed side, or the side that you're required to use. All right, to keep from having anything mess up, tighten the screws back down a little bit just to keep these plates in place so they're not kind of turning sideways on you and you're not breaking anything when you slide them back in. All right, so now that I've got this out, it's a good time to show you actually how the contacts worked. I showed you on the top N. Now I'm going to show you on the top P. If you'll look right here, this is clear plastic, and it's really good indicating how these work. Right now we're in the normally open position. There is a spring right here that keeps this from closing all the way or opening. Now that spring is actually used to keep tension on the contact itself. These bars that this screw is attached to is a contact plate that goes all the way back down to here. This is the contact itself. This is the actual physical contact inside there. This bar is also part of the contact. This is where the current is going. It's going to flow from one side through this bar out the other side. Okay, so when this bar is making contact, now we have a normally closed where we're making connection here, and then it will open up. This is in its normally open position. You can see the gap there. All right. Okay, so now we're going to take and we're going to install this back inside, and now we have a normally open, normally closed, normally open, normally open. So I want to do 2 normally closed, so I'm going to pull this one out. I'll tell you what, let's do the one that's right beside it. We're going to pull this one out. We'll do 2 normally closed and 2 normally opens. We're going to back this screw off a little bit, flip it over. This one's already backed off. We're going to flip it over too. Tighten them down just a little bit. That way they don't move on us. Okay, and then we're going to insert it blue side up. All right, so now we have a normally closed, normally closed, normally open, normally open. So now we have a wide variety that we can use. All right. So now I'm going to take and I'm going to put the retaining clip back in. I'm going to slide it all the way down. Now I can go ahead and move this retaining clip in and out, But be careful when you start this because you don't want to cross thread it, okay? So if it starts to get a little too tight, now it's going to get tight about halfway down, but it shouldn't start getting tight until about halfway. All right, once this starts getting tight, that's where the locking grease is taking effect. Go ahead and push it down, line it up and push it all the way down. That will help you keep it where it needs to be. Screw it all the way in. Get it snug but not overly tight. All right, so now this is in its proper position where it will activate and deactivate. Okay, make sure it's good and tight. All right, now we're going to replace the front cover. Again, let it sit down. Now it's going to sit, and it should sit very snug. Hold it in place. Okay, these can be started by finger tight and then go to a screwdriver. Again, I'm using a 3/16 head screwdriver so as to not break anything. Anything over 3/16 is going to break it. If you have a 1/4 inch screwdriver, that is the maximum. Do not go over a 1/4 inch. 3/16 is preferable, but do not go over a 3/4. And preferably, you're going to use a number 2 Phillips if the screw heads aren't so stripped out that you can't use it anymore. Okay? All right, so there we go. So now we've changed out 2 contacts on this one, and we've identified where the coil is at and how to identify how you can tell whether or not these are open or closed, which is really easy on the Type P. All right, so like we did on the Type N, let's go ahead and let's disassemble this thing all the way down to the coil, which means that, again, we're going to take the frame screws out. Which are on the far corners. Back them out until they spin. Try not to remove them just because you don't want to lose them. Now, as with all relays, timers, and everything else, these things are more than likely spring loaded. So pay attention when you pull these things off, and at least try to keep tension on them so they don't come apart on you. All right, so we've got all 4 screws released. We're going to take this off, move it over to the side. If you take and look at the back side of this, you can see that it is being held in by a retaining clip and 4 different tensioning screws or springs. Okay, this is our coil, and it can be removed rather easily. So this is the actual coil itself. This is what we're applying electricity to and current to cause our magnetic force to pull this in. Okay, these are the springs that are keeping it up. These are also keeping them in the position they need to be in. Okay, this is our core down in here. This is what is attracting this down to it. So, and you can see by the marks, this is where they line up, and that's where they're going to hit. All right. So to replace a core or a coil, if you have a coil that burns out, you can actually replace it, and it's really easy to do. You just do what I just did, take the top off this, and then you have an extra coil that you can replace it with. Slide the coil back in place. Make sure it is the proper voltage that you need control wise. Flip this back over, line it up, slide it back down, and you're going to feel a little bit of resistance, but you should be able to push that down. All right, again, start your screws, work your way around the housing like you would putting on a truck tire. Okay, you don't do one side all the way down. You're going to do corner by corner and a little bit at a time until you get this thing all the way down. The springs that you saw, the retaining springs, are actually very, very stiff. Okay, so you're not going to be able to push this one down near as easy as you did on the Type N. But they still, as long as you're screwing them down with their holding screws, they're going to screw down fairly easy. All right, so there you go. So there's your Type P control relay.